I'd like a moment to share with you a very interesting conversation, a powerful one that I had with a 29-year-old client. It's my hope that what I share with her is a help to you the way it was to her. She's 29, single, no children, just out of a 4-year relationship with a 34-year-old man. She indicated to me, Doc, I was with him for 4 years. I left my hometown to move to another state to be with him, and things started off great. She indicated that when the honeymoon phase ended, he became a serial liar. He then transitioned to becoming verbally abusive and went on to become extremely physically abusive. I said, what was the extent of the physical abuse? She said, well, in essence, they fought like men. That at first he would hit her when he was really upset with her, and she did not do anything to fight back. She said this went on for 4 or 5 months. Finally, she started fighting him back to the point where they would literally, her words, be rolling on the ground, fighting like men. She said, Doc, and she started to cry. She was really upset. She said, I felt like my life was in danger, and I finally found the courage to leave. And some days I wonder if I made the right decision, and I needed to talk to someone who would tell me the truth because I know I sound crazy. And she really started getting upset. And I said, first of all, ma'am, I commend you for your courage. There are a lot of people in the boat that you are in that have not found the courage to go. And hopefully what I'm going to share today will give them the courage. I said, so kudos to you. And there's no need to feel foolish. I said, what brings you to me exactly? She said, well, the truth is, Doc, as she's crying, she said, I can't stop thinking about him. I think about him all the time. I know I sound crazy. How could you think about someone who's literally beat you almost every single day, every hour of the day? She said, am I crazy? I said, well, I don't know about that. I said, but let me ask you, what have you done to protect yourself from what he's done to you? She said, well, I have done something. I did a 50B. And for those of you watching the video that don't know what a 50B is, it is a restraining order. She indicated that she put a restraining order on this man, and she has not heard from him since she did it 6 months ago. I said, when was the last time you've seen him? She said, in person? I was confused. I said, what other ways could you see him? She took a deep breath. She put her head down. She said, Doc, I'm going to be honest. I set up a fake Instagram page, and I spy on his stories. And she put her head down, and you could tell she was really upset. She started crying a little bit more. I said, why are you crying so much? She said, I'm really embarrassed. She said, I know I look stupid. I said, honestly, you don't. And I said, I'm going to explain why. I said, so the last time you talked to him was 6 months, correct? She said, yes, sir. I said, but you see him regularly because you spy on his IG stories. Is that correct? She said, yes, sir. I said, why do you do that? She said, I just want to know what he's up to. I honestly miss him. I know it wasn't a good relationship. It was a very toxic relationship, but I miss him. And I can't stop watching him to see what he's doing and what he's up to. I said, let me ask you a question that's going to sound weird. She said, okay. I said, what have you done to protect you from you? She said, I'm not sure I understand the question. I said, no, it's a pretty straightforward question. I said, what have you done in all of this to protect you from you? She said, well, the 50B. She said, I did the restraining order so he could no longer bother me. I said, I get that part. What have you done to protect you from you? She said, Doc, I really don't know how to answer that question. I said, okay, let me ask you this. What is a boundary? She said, well, a boundary in my mind is something that you set to protect you from what people can do to you, to keep you from harm. I said, that's part of it. I said, let me ask you this question. Do you think blocking is a boundary? She said, as in social media blocking? I said, yes, ma'am. She said, yeah. She said, yeah, if somebody bothers me or has bothered me, she said, I blocked him before. And when I did that, I saw that as putting up a boundary so he couldn't bother me. She said, is that not a boundary? I said, it's not. I said, it's a wall, but let me explain. I said, a boundary or the definition of boundary is probably one of the most underdefined or misdefined words that we know. I said the best way to understand a boundary is to think about a fence. When you put a fence in your yard, let's say you have a yard, you've got a house, you've got a 2-year-old. You put a fence in that yard. I said that fence is designed to do what? She said to protect you from people coming to your house. I said, correct. I said people, pedestrians, cars, accidents from barreling over into your yard. That fence is designed to keep things external to the house from us, right? The 50B is designed to keep your ex from coming to you, correct? She said, yes, sir. I said, that's where most people stop when it comes to boundaries. And that's why the things they perceive to be boundaries are really weak. She said, oh. I said, let's look at it this way. What's the other purpose of that fence? She looked confused. I said, you've got a 2-year-old. Let's say you have a 2-year-old and this 2-year-old is in the yard. That fence or boundary should do what to the 2-year-old? She said, protect it. I said, how? She said, from the things outside the fence. I said, but how do we protect the 2-year-old from the 2-year-old? She said, oh, it keeps the 2-year-old from running into the street. I said, exactly. I said, the other side of boundaries that we don't see a lot of people teaching, that I've been teaching for years, is that not only does a boundary protect you from things outside of you, a boundary that's a good boundary protects you from yourself. I said, so we know from this 50B or this restraining order that it wasn't enough because you took the restraining order and it kept him from you, but it didn't stop you from setting up fake pages. She leaned back. She said, and she started smiling. I said, good. I said, I like to see that smile. I said, but let's just take this a step further. I said, this is why I don't believe in blocking. And I said, now please hear me. If someone is physically abusing you, like your ex was physically abusing you, verbally abusing you, it makes sense to block him to create that space of separation. I said, but the restraining order is proof that you went to law enforcement, received a restraining order, and that did not stop you from spying on him, which means the restraining order really wasn't a fence, it was a wall. And you were able to jump over the wall and continue to be impacted by the things you were protecting yourself from. I said to her, I said, ma'am, if you block someone and don't set mechanisms for accountability, you're just playing hide and seek. Anytime we claim to set a boundary in our lives, and that boundary does not include a mechanism that protects us from us, we're simply playing hide and seek from that thing. I said, ma'am, the restraining order isn't a real boundary. I said, it's a partial wall. What you have to do is work to create mechanisms of accountability in your life to keep you from doing stupid things. And I said, the blessing out of all of this is that you've survived. It is my hope and prayer that you continue to survive and continue to be smart and stay away from him and move forward with your life. I said, but please understand and let this be a reminder that whether it is a 50B, blocking people, any of those things, if you block someone, but you still can't stop thinking about them, pursuing them, spying on them, setting up burner accounts to check them out, that blocking is not a boundary because you have no mechanism in place to hold yourself accountable. And boundaries should be like a fence. They should protect you from things external to you, but they should also protect you from yourself. And if a boundary does not protect you from you, it is not only a weak boundary, but it's going to position you to be positioned to do something stupid again. I hope this made sense. If it did, type church in the comments with 3 R's. And then remember, you've got 2 jobs. 1, be better today than what you were yesterday. And 2, don't forget what I told you.
What's up, everybody? This is Dr. Zeb. Listen, I've been dying to make this announcement for a very long time now, and I'm pleased to say that Inspire Nation has officially launched. Yes, we finally got a Facebook and YouTube community group where we're going to have exclusive content, exclusive shorts, exclusive discussion prompts, where we're going to engage with other people literally around the world who are on the same healing journey that we're on. I need you to go find these pages right now on Facebook and YouTube. Inspire Nation, follow the page, join the group, introduce yourself, and be prepared to link up with literally thousands of people around the world who are on the same healing journey, who are looking for the same resources, and who want to also be surrounded with other like-minded individuals who are growing in the same direction as you are. I'm so excited about this because it's the beginning of some great things I can't talk about right now. Listen, you got two jobs. One, be better today than what you were yesterday. And two, don't forget what I told you.